Hello there, you join us from sunny Stroud. This is National Trust land here in Gloucestershire, and it's an absolutely stunning day. We are here because the National Trust have done a survey over the last 10 years looking at changes in weather patterns and the impact that that has on wildlife and other such species. Now, here in Stroud, this is one of the hotspots of wildlife in the entire country. And we have been speaking this morning to Matthew Oates from the National Trust. I'm pleased to say he joins us now. Matthew, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Just talk us through, who are the winners and losers then in this survey that you've done?
Well, this year we've had a very mild winter and then a very mixed summer with regular pulses of rain. What that meant is that the grass has grown like mad. I mean, ask any lawn mower, any farmer, or anyone, any ranger who has to go around trimming footpaths.
We can see the grass here. I mean,
well, exactly. It's much longer than it usually is, but we're actually been quite lucky here because we had a dry autumn, and that meant that the cattle which grazed this slope actually did get onto it properly and grazed it down quite well. But in the beginning of September it was looking so rough, it was unbelievable. So it benefited from the from the dry autumn. But anyway, yeah, so the main winners really of this year has been the coarse grasses, the bracken, the brambles, and some of the tall flowers, the tall herbs like the knapweeds and scabiouses, which did very well. And of course this was the year of the slug and the snail yet again.
But of course the animals that are affected and the animals that haven't done so well, what are they?
Yeah, well, our main losers, and there's always a different mix of winners and losers in any one year, just on account of the weather. Well, our main losers this year are probably yet again what we call the warmth-loving winged insects, your butterflies, your bees, some hoverflies, crickets and grasshoppers, some moths, some of which fly by day. Those sort of creatures, not least because of two things: regular pulses of bad weather, which just knock them out. If you're a winged insect and it tips down or blows a hoolie, you're in trouble. You just get depleted. And also because of the strong grass growth, any of those creatures which depend on short turf or bare ground had a bad time because their short turf and bare ground just got swamped by coarse grasses.
And of course my favourite, the good old-fashioned hedgehog.
Well, yeah, the hedgehog is one part of our wildlife which is actually experiencing a lot of trouble at the moment, and basically the UK wildlife is in general in decline. Hedgehogs have got serious problems, and one of which is the fact these mild winters. This means they simply don't hibernate properly. They wake up, waste energy, wander around, and it's just no good for them. The cold weather we're getting at the moment is actually much better for them.
Okay, if you are just joining us, you are watching a Facebook Live here from Stroud. It's a beautiful view, as you can see. This is National Trust land, and we're talking about this survey that the National Trust have done, looking at the decline in bees and other insects because of this very strange weather pattern that we're getting at the moment. Please keep questions coming in. I'm getting a lot through here. David is asking, is this part of a decline in numbers over a long period, or is this all relatively new? Well, let's ask Matthew that. What is this?
Yeah, good question, and thank you for it. I mean, overall, much of our wildlife is in quite serious decline. That's mainly due to loss of habitat or simplification of habitat and fragmentation and isolation. But inclement weather doesn't help. But a lot of our species, a lot of our wildlife, particularly the insects, actually occur on boom and bust levels, and they boom during good weather spells and they bust during bad weather spells. So when the weather is chopping and changing the whole time, they actually have rather a bad time.
And Sally here saying, what has grass got to do with it?
An awful lot, Sally, because as I think I suggested, a lot of the finer, lower growing plants and the insects, the rare, precious and rather beautiful insects which depend on them, including many bees, they disappear. They get swamped by strong grass, by what we call coarse grass, which grows very, very strong. It just swamps all the other lower growing plants. Simple as that.
Mark Bennett saying, what can your average viewer do to help?
Oh, lovely! Thanks so much. There are several things. Obviously, all gardens are important for wildlife, if in only just because actually they act as stepping stones and help the more mobile wildlife, the birds and the winged insects, actually move around, and a lot of wildlife really does need to move around, both in town and in country, from place to place. They're always looking for new places to colonise. So having a buddleia bush in your garden really helps insects in July and August. Having a wildlife pond helps the frogs and toads and so on. So there's lots of good things we can do in that. But we need more naturalists. We need as many naturalists as we can get to help record and monitor what's going on in our wildlife. We've got superb natural history societies and organisations, website, information, books, the lot. The recording schemes are all there. Join us, please.
And Julie Walker saying, how can we as the public make life easier for bees?
Oh, lovely. Yeah, bees need us. They really, really need us. And we're not just talking about the honeybees, beekeeping. I'm a beekeeper myself, and it's not easy.
You are?
It's not easy keeping bees these days.
Well, I think we've got some nice pictures of bees, actually, that we can bring up.
Yeah, and the bumblebees, but also the 250 odd other species of what we call solitary bee that live in this country, many of which are horribly rare and getting rarer. So bees need friends. They're our friends because they are really important pollinators of so many of our crops, most notably our fruit. And again, growing bee-friendly plants in our gardens, and I'd love to see if we can get our road verges better managed, again, to keep bees moving around, butterflies to move around the countryside more.
And I have to say, I was speaking to Matthew earlier, and apparently it's a good year for juniper berries, which is great news, of course, for those who enjoy gin, because next year it could have a brilliant taste, I am told. Now, Matthew, we are here in Stroud. As you can see, absolutely stunning here today. Beautiful weather. Looking around us at the moment, what kind of things here are likely to be affected by this very strange weather pattern?
It's good that we've actually got some cold weather kicking in at last, because actually that's going to get the caterpillars and things like that to actually hibernate properly. It's been a very interesting winter for winter birds. We have large numbers of redwing and fieldfare come in, plenty of berries for them to eat, not just juniper berries. It was a really fantastic year for almost all autumn fruits and berries, everything apart from acorns actually. And there's a lot of waxwings, which is a rather rare winter visiting bird, a very pretty thing the size of a starling, comes in from Scandinavia and eats juicy berries. They're over here in good numbers, so some good things happening.
And Esther Sinnott, God, I got so many questions coming in. Please do keep them coming. This is great. Surely this is something that has happened since the beginning of time. Are we not overreacting? Yeah,
absolutely. Fair question. Any wildlife that tries to live in Britain has got to cope with the vagaries of our climate, and they do up and down a lot. But the actual patterns have changed, particularly this move to milder winters and then more frequent, more regular periods of highly inclement weather at all times of year, but especially during the summer, is something we can actually be quite worried about. When sort of climate change raised its ugly head first, people in this country thought, oh good, we're going to get a Mediterranean type climate. Well, I wish we were.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
It'd be gorgeous. But no, what's happening is our winters are getting milder, and we're getting more bursts of really inclement weather in the spring and summer, punctuated by some seriously hot spells. So
what we want is a nice hot summer, so we can all enjoy it, and then a colder winter, surely.
We are so overdue a decent summer. We last had UK-wide a good summer in 2006. Now that was a long time ago. We're overdue,
decade,
folks. Yeah.
So do you think some of these insects in the future will become extinct, or are we just worrying too much?
Fair question. An awful lot of our wildlife is in decline, including and perhaps especially a lot of insects, bees and butterflies. And our butterflies are particularly well monitored. We really have got extremely good information on what's happening to our butterflies. We're getting it for the bees and so on. It would not be good to lose species to extinction through climate change, but yes, things do move around and things do change. But the real impact, actually, of the weather is making the habitats, the precious habitats, which so many of our rare species depend on, jump in and out of suitability. Now that's difficult to cope with.
Great. Now, if you're just joining us, we're talking about this survey that's been done by the National Trust, looking at weather patterns and the impact that's having on our wildlife, particularly insects. It's things like bees, butterflies, winged insects that have been affected the most with these very mild winters and very pretty much cold summers, really. And we're just speaking to Matthew Oates from the National Trust, who mentioned earlier that he is actually a beekeeper himself. I'm getting some messages in here, Matthew. One lady, Jules Walker, saying, can anyone become a beekeeper?
Beekeeping is becoming more and more challenging, more of a skill than it used to be, with new diseases, new problems facing our bees. You need to join a beekeeping society. They will help you, but bees need friends, and good luck.
And you need all the kit as well, don't you?
Yeah. There's a lot of kit, but you will love bees.
Thank you very much. Well, that brings us to the end of this Facebook Live. Thank you very much for watching. We do, of course, have more on Sky News on the TV. So tune in there if you want any more information on this topic. Thanks very much.